Welcome! Welcome! Oh my goodness, it is so good to see you here. Here in that time and space that is without time and space. It is a gathering of intention. It is hibernation. It is a time when we surrender into the we. Today's topic is the spiritual spectrum of circumstance and setting. And what made me think about that was I just read a book, a beautiful book. I'm not going to name it by title because I don't want it to sound like I'm being critical. It simply prompted some thoughts in my head about context. It was a book about someone who was learning all these spiritual lessons as they were backpacking around the world. And there was beautiful lessons in every step along the way. But there was also an awareness I had as I was reading it about, it's wonderful to get those lessons as you are away from life. But the challenge, I think, the real gift is to be able to access those lessons when you're not unattached and backpacking, when you're not a monk on a mountaintop with your only responsibilities of being present, of getting water, of meditating. In that place, away from the distractions of people, of media, of obligation, it's a very different spiritual practice than the one of being in the world and having family and having a job and having whatever issues that you have as being a person in culture. I'm not going to say whether it's better or worse to be in culture or outside of culture. I think ideally we want to live in culture as a guest, as we play a game, the same way that you play a soccer game and you enjoy the passion and the fun of it, while in those rough times when you're down by 2 points and you're frustrated with the way you're playing, you can pull back and go, it's just a game, I'm here to learn. It's the excitement that I'm experiencing and enjoying. It's how I play the game, not whether I win or lose. And so if we can enjoy culture and the obligations of living in the world with the awareness that we are separate from it, that we are detached, maybe not detached, unattached, that is the gift. And so I want to just spend a moment to think about the context in our spiritual setting and how that's significant. And there are these incredible teachers that have so much to give from these mountaintops. You visit a mountaintop guru and they pass on this divine awareness, or at least metaphorically, or maybe actually. I've never actually met a mountaintop guru, but I do read stories told by the Buddha. I do read all sorts of books by entities and people that are kind of outside of culture and then visit the world to share their wisdom. People like Eckhart Tolle, who is for many months, years, was so outside of culture that he was sleeping on park benches in the state of bliss, and then settled back into enough of a life that he was able to share and teach. But still is in this bliss of detachment where he's able to enjoy the now so profoundly. Or Byron Katie, or so many. I keep glancing to my bookcase as I feel the inspiration of these teachers. And I think it's an admirable milestone to put ahead as a guiding post for us to head towards those lifestyles and those perspectives, with the understanding that most of us live in the world. Most of us have credit card bills, have car payments, have landlords, have bosses, have game obstacles. Not real obstacles, because there's no such thing as an obstacle. There's only the task at hand. And that's part of how context and how, I think, relevant spirituality is something that I've been focused on lately. And I've been working very hard. If you saw me tweet or post last week, I had the hardest, most challenging work week of my life. I worked harder last week than I ever have before. There was a period of time between Sunday at 3:30 in the morning and Wednesday midnight that I slept 5 hours in that entire time. And at times, it was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I had to think about, okay, listen, as hard as you think you're being pushed, every new parent has to do this, has to suck it up and do what they got to do. And it's in those times of being in the world, being off the mountaintop, that it is so important to have access to the toolbox of reminders and recalibration and practice. A meditation practice is awesome, but it's when you can access that link to calm during the storm that it becomes truly helpful. I had a moment at 3:30 in the morning as I was leading Kinko's, almost in tears, knowing that I had to wake up in 2 hours to go to a breakfast meeting, and I hadn't slept, at that point, not even 3.5 hours in the last 2 days. And I was like, I'm going to tell my boss, I just am not strong enough, I can't do this. And then I had this moment where I as it's happening, I just was watching myself, and I was like, wow, this is as far as human being John Stinn can be pushed. This is, if you keep this forward, this goalkeeper, this player on the field is in his heroic final minutes of the game. And man, if he can just make it to the end zone, if he can, here I am struggling to make sports metaphors, if he can just take the ball through the goal holes and shoot the puck down the keeper's placeholder, you know what I mean. If he can pull it together, it will be that heroic gladiator move that we see in our heroes. In this moment, my heroic battle with the dragon happened to be a business meeting. But in that moment, I was looking on myself, going, this organism, this human organism is in his final last moments of energy and concentration and focus, and wow, it's somewhat of a gift to see myself, my conscious being, pushed to my limits. And truthfully, I thought my limit was here, and I learned that my limit is here. And so I'm incredibly grateful for this experience, even though I'm hesitant to be grateful, because I know that when you show and express gratitude to the universe, that you get more of those things. How about this? I'm grateful for lessons, and I'm grateful that I have learned this lesson and don't need to learn it again, maybe, please. But one of the significant things of this lesson is something that I think is an important part of my chapter right now, which before I took this job that I'm in, I was somewhat in a life of leisure. I wasn't living on a mountaintop as a monk, which I'm not saying is a life of leisure. I was living, doing some part-time work. I had a lot of free time, living off savings, in a writing a book phase where I wasn't being very productive in that. But so I had a lot of time, and I had this awareness and this thought that, am I in any position to be giving feedback, guidance, teaching about happiness and peace and joy when I have this luxury that so many people don't have? Am I in a position to teach a place of this is how you stay in positivity and joy and gratitude when the people tuning in are taking a brief break from their workday and bottle feeding their kid and trying to get the meals together for tomorrow and dealing with this life of responsibility and hecticness? I kind of had this thought of, who am I to speak from a place of any authority whatsoever? And I try not to speak from authority, but I hope I'm making some sense. And so I think whether I asked for it or the universe simply knew that I needed this incredibly challenging chapter is allowing me to practice what I preach and allowing me to take these ideas of mountaintop spiritual awakenings and apply them in the heat of battle, in the final moments of the big game. And I am grateful. And so there is a Course in Miracles concept that Jacob Glass passes on all the time, which is that the idea is you got to listen, learn, and do. And you can look at your bookcase of books, you can look at and read them and learn that, but it's the application of it where the true growth happens. And so I'm very aware that there are things that I can have memories of myself on the Turkish mountaintop. I have memories of myself on the playa at Burning Man. I have memories of myself, on a beach or in these settings of bliss and peace where I was so connected. And that's not the hard part. The hard part is making a practice of accessing those thoughts or those reminders of non-thought so that you can make clear passageways in your brain to return to those places when the thoughts have got you so stirred up that you forget that those are your natural state. Someone was asking me last week about my years that I was on medication and how I got off. And I really think that I changed my brain patterns, and I changed the passageways to get less and less obstacles between my thoughts and that clarity. And so I have the ability now that I didn't used to have, or when the thoughts get me to that place of, I have this toolbox of reminders. I have these practices that can take me back to, that's a thought. That thought is causing me suffering. Do I need to believe that thought? No, I don't. Or I observe myself, observe the thought, observe myself in this panicked state and go, this is myself playing the game as hard as possible. But I cannot lose this game. The fact that I'm playing this game is the gift. The only way to lose this chapter of the game is to not be aware of the lessons in it. There are no obstacles. There's only lessons. Easier said than done, I recognize that, but I think that the difference between enjoying a workout and feeling punished by a trainer is the awareness of, I'm doing this to better myself. And the same is true with the challenges of your life and your spiritual path and your frustrations. When you have frustrations, when you have obstacles, that is the classroom. And the more frequently you can remind yourself that and observe yourself, the more powerful the lesson becomes and the less painful the frustrations become. Because you start to see more and more that these are thoughts surrounding the lesson. And the more you can control it, the more it becomes this thing that you observe yourself doing, as opposed to this overwhelming thing you have no control over and no power. And so thank you for all the lessons from the mountaintop. Thank you from the lessons from backpacking. Thank you from the personal lessons of times. And now the work comes in practicing that. There are so many ways that we can practice it. There is meditation, yoga, there is reading, there is listening to lectures, there is this joining together in this moment of Hug Nation. This experience is yet another way to practice that return to the thought pattern and the awareness and the passageway in your brain to clarity and appreciation for all of it. And so I would guess that if you are here listening, you are probably not a monk on a mountaintop, you're probably not backpacking, you're probably in the middle of a human life with all sorts of responsibilities and roles you have to play and things you have to do. So how do you stay in the present moment while maintaining a to-do list? While making the rent, while doing all the things that you have to do. I like the way that Eckhart Tolle explains it. He says, it's not a matter of forgetting that there is a future and living in the now, irresponsibly, people would suggest. It's a matter of shifting the balance of where you spend future and past awareness. Most of us spend all of our thoughts living in the future. What ifs, oh my gosh, that needs to be done, the to-do list, or the passive, I shouldn't have, ashamed of. And every once in a while, we visit the now. The key is shifting the balance of that to most of the time living in the now, and every once in a while visiting the future, visiting the past, and then acting, thinking, being in the now. And it's through practice. I think that if I'm reminded 10 times a day, each time I'd be like, oh gosh, I forgot. I was out of the now. I think if you reminded me 100 times a day, I'd be like, yep, sorry, I was out of the now. I think if you reminded me moment by moment, minute by minute, I would most of the time be like, I needed that reminder. So let's have a reminder right now. Let's come back to this now and hear my voice, be aware of this connection, and the awareness of all the people who are tuning into this vibration right now, that are opening up their hearts, that are aligning with their highest selves. And as we do it all together, we are all playing our role. We are all the cells doing our role in the cosmic organism, aligning ourselves. Letting go of the plan, letting go of the to-dos, the what-ifs, and our roles, and just knowing that if we are present in this moment, if we align with love, if we are in integrity, we're perfect. Now, visit the game, work on the report, turn in the assignment, until it becomes then pull back and be in integrity and be present and align with love. And the more and more we practice this, the more that effortless back and forth can happen, and the more enjoyable the game is, and the more productive we are. We fear that if we stay too much in the now, we forget all of the responsibilities that we have. But what will happen is, as we stay more and more in the now, we allow wisdom, strength, ideas to flow through us. And so we are as productive, if not very much more so. We are as creative. We fulfill all of the obligations in our world game with less effort, because we fall back on and get the strength and energy of the bigger I, we, us. That part that is aligning now. So thank you for being a part of the I, we, us. Thank you for being a reminder to me. I love you. Let's have a hug. Grab yourself by the shoulders. And regardless what you hear in the news, remember that the world is full of people like you. Some of them without the same opportunities to learn, without the teachers, without the lights to illuminate the darkness in their life. We can remember times when we had much more to learn, and we know that we have much more to learn. And so we forgive all those we see around us that may be acting from places of non-compassion, and let our hearts illuminate theirs. And we forgive ourselves for the times when we forget and we act from places of frustration or guilt. And we acknowledge that we are a tiny cell. And as we work to make ourselves present, aligned, and in integrity, we do our part. We uplift all. And in doing so, we uplift everyone. Each one of us doing our teeny tiny parts creates ripples with unknown, powerful consequences. Let's take 3 breaths and just sit in our now, align with our love, and let our true selves just be. And in that place, who knows what vibration can come through us and instruct us and inspire us. 3 breaths. Ready? On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the Love Warriors, happy Hug Nation. Thank you. I love you. Namaste.